friends, welcome back. Today we are talking affordable cashmere sweaters. We're just gonna go through mine, the ones that I own, and we're gonna talk a little bit about each of them, how they're holding up, which ones are appealing and which ones are more comfortable, stuff like that. I am obsessed with cashmere for fall and winter. In my opinion, it is the fabric over them all. Of course, it is super comfortable, but it also keeps you very warm, up to 9 times warmer than regular wool, but still you can breathe really easily with it, which means that it helps regulate your body temperature quite well. I did hang my cashmere sweaters like this for purposes of this video, but don't do that. Never actually hang your cashmere sweaters because the fiber will stretch out and the sweater can lose its shape. So also, if you ever find yourself washing a cashmere sweater, which for the most part you wouldn't have to do a lot if ever, because cashmere is self-cleaning, but if and when you do so, also make sure to dry the sweater on a flat surface, laying down instead of hanging. Let's go into the sweaters. I have a couple of crew necks and then the rest are turtlenecks and then a cardigan as well. I sort of have a very particular color scheme for my wardrobe, so what I'm doing right now is I'm basically adding basic cashmere sweaters in the colors that suits my scheme. That way I always have something to sort of switch up my outfits that is still really basic, but is something that I will bring out again and again each year. When I was younger, I would add more trend pieces and also sometimes polyester sweaters. And I found that over the time, literally none of them survive within my wardrobe. But these sweaters is something I love to bring out every year. So every time I add a sweater to the collection, I get super excited, and then I have another one for, of course, the season, but also the seasons to come. And it doesn't have to break the bank. Of course, cashmere sweaters are rarely cheap by comparisons, but we are going to talk about the most affordable pieces that I have. And the first one that we're going to talk about is this crew neck from Uniqlo. The Uniqlo ones are the ones that first got me into cashmere sweaters. Unfortunately, I lost the first one I ever bought, which was this, but in black. The Uniqlo sweater is around $150 US. It will change a little bit depending on where in the world that you are living. Of course, I'll be leaving a link to this and everything else below. I do feel like with Uniqlo's cashmere sweaters, it's a little bit a hit or a miss. I have two, this one and another one in my wardrobe right now, but I used to have two others. The two others, one of them didn't hold up so well. The color really faded. It was a pink one, and the other one, the black one, I lost, but they were both unbelievably soft. Then I have this one that is kind of a little bit itchy by comparison, and I did try to give it a wash and it didn't really help. So actually I tend not to wear this that much. Definitely I should be giving it around with a fabric softener of some sort and then give an update on this. I just haven't got around to it. I just tend to then wear the other pieces. That's sometimes how it goes. When I say itchy, that might be a bit extreme because it's not that it's actually itchy, it's just compared to how I think a cashmere sweater should feel and how some of the others feel. This isn't quite on par with it. They also really have a tendency to pill quite a lot, like make these very like dense pillings, but I mean that's sort of for the most part to be expected, especially for those at like a lower price range. And I'm going to chat a little bit about fabric shavers after this. And we are staying in Uniqlo world a little bit because this cool toned brown turtleneck is also from Uniqlo, and this is a lot softer. Like this is very comfortable. It's kind of thin in the fabric, like they don't really make the thickest or like the most lightweight of cashmere fabrics in my opinion. That sort of just seems to be pretty consistent with Uniqlo's sweaters, but that's sort of like whatever you're into. The color of this one is so beautiful, which is why I got it. I tend to think in terms of that more, like there are some color sweaters I really want to have within my wardrobe, and then when I pass by one, I tend to just add it regardless of whether it's Uniqlo or something else. What I really love about the turtleneck on the Uniqlo ones is that they're quite thin, but they're also quite fitted. I just prefer the look of a somewhat fitted neck on a turtleneck sweater. So that I really like about this one. And then I think the best way to get around the inconsistency within the Uniqlo sweaters is to just feel them in store. If you try it on and it feels a little bit like rough or in some certain way in store, you really have to wear it quite a lot to sort of like soften it up. At least that is my experience. Then we are moving on to Everlane. This one is a season old. I got this last year. I was really lucky to pick this up on sale. So this is by far the cheapest cashmere sweater that I have. It's a beautiful oat color, and this is the old model. I know that the new model looks a little bit different in the neck, so just keep that in mind if you go shopping at Everlane. All that said and done, this one is a little bit more luxurious feeling in my opinion than the Uniqlo one, and it's around the same price. Most of these pieces are going to sit around 150, and then again a little bit up and down depending on where in the world you're living, but the Everlane one is really great feeling for the price. Here we also come into official gradings of cashmere, in which there is A, B, and C, where the graded A cashmere is the superior fibers. And for some of these pieces, like with the Uniqlo, you won't even be able to find on the website which grade the cashmere is, which, I mean, I don't know, but I'm just gonna assume that that means it's definitely not grade A cashmere, where on Everlane's website it does state that the cashmere is grade A, and it might have an effect on form and feel both immediately but also long term, but probably more importantly than that, it means that the fabric is a little bit more sturdy, which of course in a cashmere sweater that you would want to keep around forever is a really good thing. Even though it's fitted, it's also a little bit thicker in the fabric than the Uniqlo one. Cashmere is so heat regulating that if you have something that's a little bit thicker, it won't necessarily be less able to cool you down. Like in my experience, it doesn't really matter if I wear the thickest or the thinner one of my cashmere sweaters, I will still be able to cool down as quickly as I start getting hot in the thicker ones. So yeah, I really love this one. Beautiful, cool toned color. I know they have a similar color on the Everlane's website right now that I'm of course also linking to in the description. Then we are arriving at the newest cashmere sweater in my wardrobe. It is this beautiful baby blue that I picked up from Mango. That makes this the only true fast fashion cashmere piece that I have in this collection. But like I mentioned earlier, it's not really because I want to necessarily try and get a Mango one, it's because I ran into the color that I wanted, and actually a baby blue like this I've been looking for a couple of years. So when I saw it, I got really excited. I also checked for a grading of the fabric on the website, but as to be expected, I couldn't find one, so it's probably not the finest of cashmeres, but regardless, I actually really love this. I haven't had it for long, so I haven't got to wear it that much, but this is probably the softest piece that I have, together with one of the others. We'll come to that as well. It is just unbelievably soft. Of course, this is the only thing or only cashmere thing that I do own from Mango, so I don't know if it's a fluke or if it's consistent within the brand, but I do really love this. I love the fit of it, I love the shape of it, and here it's also quite thick feeling for what I would expect for a fast fashion brand to make. Like, it feels like they put more fabric into this than they would have to. Here we're sitting at around the same price range. This is a little bit more expensive. I think this is at 170. Really comfortable, very beautiful color. I'll be trying to link to the exact one since it is new, because I don't know if anyone else are into baby blue sweaters, but it took me so long to find this one in cashmere and not some other type of fabric. Then the next piece is this navy cashmere turtleneck. This one is Lilysilk, and this one was gifted to me as part of a sponsored video, but this video is not sponsored. I don't have to talk about this sweater. I'm just going to because I kept it as part of my wardrobe, where sometimes if you get gifted something, it's not always that it will survive within your actual daily wear, like if you just don't like it that much. But with this is, oh my god, I am so pleased with this sweater. I feel very fortunate to have been able to pick it out, also because it's definitely a piece that I would have eventually invested in, like a navy cashmere turtleneck. But that's not really what it comes down to. What it does come down to is the quality of this sweater. Of course, this is also rather new. It doesn't have that much wear, but even so, this is pretty unbelievable. This is as soft, if not more, than the Mango one. They're probably equally soft, but This fabric somehow has like a little bit more, it has a little bit more give. Like when I pull on it, it sort of bounces back right away. This is also grade A fabric, it says on the website. And again, this is rather thick, even though it is fitted. I also here love the shape of the turtleneck. Like it's fitted to the neck, but not too much. It's just sort of like a really nice hug. A hug is actually a good way to say it. This is probably the sweater I have that feels the most like a hug. It came with 0% itchiness. It hasn't been washed, of course. And I tried a little bit not to go into too much pilling about each of them, because I think now that I haven't had the most of them for that many seasons or that much wear, I think it's a little bit unfair to start to compare, because most of your cashmere sweaters are probably going to start pilling at the very least more in the beginning, and as you like shave out or shave off the first wear, it's going to get better. So there is a little bit of pilling on this as well, but it's really so minimal compared to some of the others. Like for example with the Uniqlo sweaters, they really just make these very like almost hard balls underneath the armpits, for example, when there's more friction, and that's just to be expected, that's part of the game. But with this one, it really hasn't happened. The only downside to Lilysilk's cashmere sweater that I can really come up with is the lack of colors. They do have a range of classic colors, so to be fair, that's probably gonna fit most people, but it tends to just be these very like classic standard colors. They do have also like a white cashmere turtleneck on their website right now. I've sort of been thinking about investing in that one at some point, just because it is probably the, at least from the pictures, is the closest thing I've seen to like a clear white in a cashmere sweater, because you can't really get 100% clear white cashmere sweater. You would ruin the fabric by trying to bleach it, unfortunately. But I really do love this one. And then probably the number one thing about it is that it's also by far the most cheap of the ones. Of course, I didn't pay for this one, but I did have a look at the website, and this one goes for around $120, $130 or 120 euros here in Europe, which for a cashmere sweater of this quality, that's just remarkable. So very pleased with this one. Then we will be talking about two pieces from less known and also arguably a lot of places less accessible brands maybe. But I thought, why not talk about everything that's part of my collection, and this one is the most expensive piece that I have. This was $250, so not unreasonable for a cashmere piece, but a lot less affordable than some of the other pieces that you can get. This one is a little bit thin, so I'm sorry, you can see my black bore through it, but we'll work through that. This I got because it was a hot pink. This is a Swiss brand, it's local to me here where I live, but I'm going to mention it anyway because I think it's a little bit interesting, because here we are working on something that is sort of, it's greater quality, they produce much less bulk, and in general it's a brand that just makes really good quality pieces of natural fibers that are all certified. And the reason I wanted to talk about it is just because it shows. This is also extremely soft, but it's a little bit less fluffy than basically all of the other sweaters. It's just as soft, but it's almost like it's a little bit more like rigid in the fabric, and the fabric itself is very thin, hence you can see the bra, but it's quite thickly woven. Like it's not as light in the feel as some of the others, but still, because it is fabric, it does have this like effortless, super soft feel on the skin. Here there's also talk about a fabric that sort of gives a lot, that when you try to pull on it, it does sort of return to its shape immediately, and as well a beautiful fit of the turtleneck that isn't too loose. But like I mentioned, this is sort of also like a color choice. I tend to do that. I mean, I'm not gonna add another pink turtleneck, I'm not gonna add another light blue turtleneck. It sort of comes down to what color I feel like is missing in my collection, or what color I want to add next. And because some of these colors are a bit rare to come across, and exactly also the undertone that I would like it in, then whenever I do run into a sweater that fit the criteria, I just go ahead and buy it. Then just one more thing, and it is this cashmere cardigan in a deep navy from a French brand that is called not shy. They have a couple of stores here in Switzerland. They have one locally to me as well, and they had a sale, so I went ahead and got this one. Originally this would have been at $200, but I did get it for $100, and I was actually initially really disappointed when I got it at first. I felt like for such a supposedly high quality piece, it did really start to pill quite quickly and just started to get really fussy. But I think that's just the thing. Your cashmere sweaters aren't gonna act the exact same, which is really interesting, and this one is by far the fussiest piece that I have. But I have really learned to love it, and I do prefer the sweater look, especially undercoat, stuff like that. Actually, I love this look on its own, but as soon as I add like outerwear on top of it, I don't really like this look, which is strange, but when it's just on its own like this with like a couple of buttons open, I think it looks so chic and so beautiful and still really, really cozy. So yeah, this is by far the fussiest thing that I have, but this is also by far the softest one. And outside of just having it as like part of your outfit, I can really recommend a cashmere cardigan as a layer piece. Actually, I have worn this so much more than any of the other ones, which to me now, with how I felt about it at first, is so surprising. But I wear it so much as like a insulating layer as part of my outfits, especially if I'm going out, stuff like that. Like when we're layering something in fabrics that aren't necessarily especially both breathable but also very warm, we can really have to build so many layers, and some of them so thick, which can sort of make our outfit look rather bulky. And I know that for some people that's their look, that's part of their style, but for me that is just really not the case. I do like my layers quite thin, and when you get like a really nice fuzzy good quality cardigan, cashmere cardigan like this one, it takes up so little space and you really get so much warmth for it. This is definitely a cashmere comparison video, but I do just want to throw in a few good tips for cashmere there in general. You might already know this, but if you don't, they are really good to know. So of course there is already the no hanging the cashmere on hangers. The only exception I find to that is that a cashmere sweater, it doesn't really pick up an odor even if you sweat in it, because it is antibacterial. Like the fabric will sort of cleanse itself, which is super cool. But what I like to do every once in a while is to help the sweater on its way by hanging it outside on a somewhat windy day on a hanger, and then I like to spray it down with like an antibacterial or like a cashmere deodorizing spray, which I'll also be linking to in the description. And then after I've let it hang out there to do its thing for a couple of hours, I take it back in and it's just so fresh, and then I'll put it back in my closet folded in a stack. Then there's also fabric shavers, and this is actually quite embarrassing, but there are a couple of different choices to make. One of them is a manual fabric shaver where you pull and shave off the fabric, and it does work, but that's actually what I do, and I just know as I'm doing it, I can tell that I'm pulling on the fabric, like already starting a little bit on the next pill, and it's just not such a good idea, and I really need to invest in an electrical fabric depiller. I just haven't done it yet, but I'm going to after finishing filming this video. So definitely go for an electrical depiller. So whatever you want, of course, is totally up to you. I'm going to link to a few options in the description below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up so that I know. And here's another couple of videos from me, YouTube things you might want to watch, and I will see you in the next one.